A warm welcome to everyone joining us from all over the world. We're here at the beautiful Slovakia Ring. It's race number 3 here on the track for Formula 4 Central European Zone. Welcome on Sunday as well. It is very sunny out here today. It will be quite hot, especially this afternoon for the 4th and final race. But first, of course, we have the 3rd and final heat of this weekend. Groups number A and C are ready to kick things off here at the Slovakia Ring. It is time to watch the 3rd race. Teo Borenstein starts on pole, just like race 1 when he took the win. He will definitely be one of the prime candidates to do so as well this morning. But watch out for the other 24 drivers that are ready to take his place in P1. Starting from David Walther, he was 2nd yesterday in race number 2. So close to taking the win. He led all but one lap, the final one, in race number 2 when Rechenmacher took the win. He's going to watch from the pits as instead Walther is going to start from second on the grid. Third place is championship leader Elia Weiss, whereas fourth position belongs to Jenzer Motorsport driver Max Karhan. We are ready, the grid is starting to being cleared, and therefore we are ready to go to the commentary booth to enjoy race number 3 of Formula 4 Central European Zone. Back in the commentary booth for race number 3 of the 2026 FIA F4 CEZ Championship. Another 25 minutes of running for the third and final heat before knowing who will be qualifying for the grand final starting later this afternoon. But first off, we need to focus on race 3, which is why we're going to have a look at the starting grid with Teo Borenstein on pole position for Jenzer Motorsport, just ahead of David Walther. Another two Jenzer drivers, Elia Weiss and Max Karhan, in third and fourth, with Markas Sirkunas, the Lithuanian who just took his maiden podium in race number 1, starts from fifth, with Dean Pedersen in sixth, Georgi Jazov and Ella Hakkinen on the fourth row of the grid, with Mio Ollert and Alexander Bogunovic rounding out the top 10. Victor Znebjorn and Alexia Danielson start on the sixth row of the grid, with Alexander Louza, the Brazilian, in 13th, just ahead of Miroslav Kepak, and then Ben Shazari in 15th position, the last one of the points-paying spots. Andreas Lobue starts in 16th, just ahead of Leo Nielsen and Stefan Traneski. Piotr Victor and Tomasz Rudokas round out the top 20. We then have 5 more drivers. It is Nikolai Dirved, Albert Pijarik, František Nemec, Patrick Lipovic, and Noah Daniel, who is rounding out the grid, car number 42. Noah Daniel Nolken, the German, rounding out the grid. He will definitely need a strong comeback to fight for the podium spots, but he is definitely expected to do so. We only have 1 more minute before the start of the formation lap, therefore all the engineers are about to clear the starting grid. And we're getting ready for the start of this third race of F4 CEZ this weekend. We've seen 2 very interesting races on Saturday, one of course by Teo Borenstein and Simon Rechenmacher. Borenstein won by just a tenth of a second the opening race, whereas Rechenmacher in even more emphatic fashion overtook David Walther on the very final lap of race number 2 to take the winning spoils, as the German has already raced in 2 occasions, and therefore he has completed his qualifying heats. Meanwhile, the green flag has been waved at the back of the grid, and therefore we're getting ready for the formation lap, which is the perfect opportunity to talk about the Slovakia Ring as a circuit, the 5.9 kilometer track boasting 14 corners, 7 to the left and 7 to the right. A track that was opened for the first time in 2009 and is designed by the architect Hans Roth, one of the most prominent tracks in Central Europe. It has hosted a plethora of good championships, starting of course from the FIA European Truck Racing Championship, which is the marquee event of this season and this weekend in particular. Then of course a plethora of Middle East, sorry, Central European and Central Eastern Europe championships, such as, of course, F4 CEZ on one hand, but also TCR Eastern Europe, the GT Cup Series, which raced here in an endurance format yesterday, and then, of course, plenty of European series such as TCR European Endurance, the GTC Endurance Challenge, 2 championships that are here this weekend. And it has created plenty of unforgettable moments across its years in F4 CEZ. I mean, both races yesterday were decided by less than 5/10 of a second between first and second position. We just tell you how important it is to be present and be ready to pounce at the right moment, which is what Simon Rechenmacher did yesterday and what David Walther will for sure try and do today, as he's learned from what happened on Saturday. Meanwhile, the drivers are now getting ready to reach the end of the formation lap. We have seen how crucial it can be for the drivers to warm up their tires correctly on one hand and use them to the best extent on the other. So we're getting ready to see Teo Borenstein line up on the front row of the grid. Here he is, the Jenzer Motorsport driver, just alongside David Walther in second position and Elia Weiss in third. Max Karhan is in fourth, just ahead of Markas Silkunas, who took his maiden podium finish in the series in race number 1. He will line up from 5th, just alongside Dean Pedersen, who was very quick yesterday in race number 2. Though, unfortunately, a penalty for a jump start dropped him outside of the top 10. Still scored points in 11th position, but he will be looking to change that today, as the green flag is about to be waved at the back end of the grid for what will be the third race of this weekend in FIA F4 CEZ, as the lights come on and they go out, and we are underway here at the Slovakia Ring. It looks to be a great getaway for Teo Borenstein as he immediately goes towards the far right of the track to defend the inside line. It was a great getaway for Elia Weiss as well. The championship leader is already up into second. It wasn't the perfect getaway instead for David Walther. He's already dropped to third and potentially even down to fourth, as Max Karhan looked to overtake him around the outside, though he wasn't able to, and therefore Walther is still in third position, now going around the outside of Elia Weiss, the championship leader. The two go side by side through turn number 2. They almost touch wheels as they go up the hill towards turn number 3. Let's see who will be the bravest on the braking. It is Elia Weiss, who takes second position definitively by the end of turn number 3. It wasn't instead at the start that Max Karhan was hoping for. He was hung out to dry in turn number 1 and lost a couple of positions to Markas Silkunas and Dean Pedersen, who are now fighting for 4th position. Meanwhile, all good for Teo Borenstein, who is still leading this race. Now the fight with Alexander Bogunovic and Mio Ollert for what looks to be 9th position. Ella Hakkinen as well, car number 21. Currently involved in a top 10 battle. The McLaren Junior, who has impressed so far this year, is now going down the inside into turn 10. Brave on the braking, and she gets the move done and is up 1 spot. And as the series now heads over towards the end of the first lap, we're getting ready to see the different pace that the drivers have, but Teo Borenstein has already created a nice small lead over Elia Weiss, who looks to be around 0.7 of a second behind, but of course with the slipstream he will be able to gain some of that time back. As now we go towards turn number 1, as Ella Hakkinen once more tries a move up the inside, but that wasn't the best attempt, as now she is under attack from what looked like 11th position. Yep, she is so far in 11th, with Alexandra Loza now taking that spot in turn number 1. The Brazilian having a good time out there today after retiring after just 3 corners in race number 1. Meanwhile, up top, Teo Borenstein is in first, and I think David Walther has moved into second. We briefly saw him into turn 1 side by side with Elia Weiss, and yes, Walther has moved in second position. Meanwhile, Dean Pedersen is defending from Markas Silkunas in 4th, and behind them the 2 Jenzer Motorsport drivers of Max Karhan and Georgi Zhazov. Bogunovic is behind them in 8th, Mia Ollert in 9th, and Victor Poulsen rounding out the top 10. Alexandra Loza in 11th, Ella Hakkinen in 12th, Alexa Danielson in 13th position, with Piotr Orchowski and Miroslav Kepak rounding out the top 15. Drivers now come towards the second sector for the second time today. Currently through lap number 2, as Teo Borenstein has a rounded 9/10 lead over David Walther and Elia Weiss. And should those two continue their fight for second position, that would aid Borenstein in his quest to fly away from the rest of the pack and secure his lead in race number 3. Track is much hotter than yesterday morning. We're already at 29 degrees Celsius for the track temperature. We were at around 25 degrees at the same time yesterday, so tires will be going off quite faster compared to what we had yesterday. So that is another factor to take into account. And meanwhile, Ella Hakkinen goes up the inside of Alexandra Loza for 11th position. The two have been fighting for a good part of a lap. Hakkinen now moving towards the top 10, as Victor Poulsen is looking to make a move on Mia Ollert. The two go side by side towards turn number 4, and I think Poulsen has the better drive out of the corner, and he does. So up to 9th goes Victor Poulsen, and down to 10th drops Mia Ollert, now attacked by Ella Hakkinen. She wastes no time into turn 5, but I don't think she was able to make the move stick, as of course the outside line there is a bit more grippier. She is in fact still in 11th position, with Alexandra Loza behind in 12th, both of them being points paying positions, of course, as the top 15 from the season receive points for F4, mirroring what is, on the other hand, the MotoGP point system, as now Hakkinen has moved in front of Victor Poulsen. And she's now up into 10th. Meanwhile, up top, Teo Borenstein still in the lead with a 1.2 second gap over David Walther. Borenstein just set the fastest lap of the race with a 2 minute 3 second .735, gaining a further 10th on Walther and 3/10 on Elia Weiss. The championship leader has a huge gap, given that it's only been 3 laps over Dean Pedersen. It's already 3.5 seconds, as Pedersen doesn't look like he has the pace to stick with the top 3. Meanwhile, up the inside goes Alexandra Loza, as the Brazilian enters the top 11, overtaking Mio Ollert, and there's contact between Ollert and Piotr Orkowski probably as the two hit the barriers, and I think this will definitely bring out the safety car as the fight for 12th position ends in tears with contact between Mio Ollert and Piotr Orkowski. Of course, we will try and see a replay, but I think the red flag has been already brought out on track. Yeah, I didn't want to call it, but it looked like a red flag could be waved from the stewards given the severity of the impact. Yeah, there was contact between the rear right of Mio Ollert and the front left of Piotr Orkowski. The two then hit the barriers on the inside of turn number 2. And therefore, we are under red flag conditions. The timer will stop. And then we will be waiting for the marshals to recover the stranded cars and, of course, repair the tire barriers on the inside of turn number 2. It was quite an unfortunate contact, I have to say, with Ollert just moving an inch to the right to avoid the gravel trap on the outside of turn 2, and then making slight contact with Orkowski. It was quite an unlucky incident, of course, between the two drivers. And this red flag for sure will not play into the hands of the top 3, who had quite a big gap over 4th position in the Pedersen. Teo Borenstein looked to have the pace so far, but his efforts will be reduced to none as his gap over David Walther will be dropping to 0. As the cars now go into the pits, we will be waiting for the official confirmation from the stewards on a potential restart time. But meanwhile, we can see the Mio Ollert is out of the car. At least one of the two drivers is. Of course, during a red flag, all cars need to go into the pit lane, stay in the fast lane into single file formation, and wait for further instructions from the stewards. We will, of course, be telling you if and which communications we will be given, as Teo Borenstein has parked his Jenzer at the tail end of the pits in the fast lane, with David Walther in 2nd position, and 3rd was championship leader Elia Weiss. Meanwhile, it is very nice to see the drivers on their own 2 feet. Of course, they will be checked medically after the incident, but it was a nasty hit, so it's very nice to see them out of the car. Naturally, of course, this will be not an easy fix for the stewards, as the tire barriers were damaged in the accident. The timer has stopped with 70 minutes and 32 seconds to go, which is the time that we will be having as the remaining time for the race once we will be restarting. And here you can see the marshals working tirelessly to start removing all the pieces of carbon fiber, and of course the 2 cars of Mio Ollert and Piotr Orkowski. The accident coming just on the inside of the exit of turn 2. We can see a replay thanks to the work of our TV crew. Yeah, just very unfortunate, wasn't it? Contact between the rear right of Mjolnir and the front left of Piotr Orkowski, who was trying to find some space to go up the inside of Olert, but the Swedish driver was just trying to avoid the outside curb and the gravel trap on the outside of it, and therefore the two came together by the end. It wasn't the nastiest of accidents, but the hit was pretty substantial, which is why the marshals are at work at the moment, with the two cars being recovered right about now, as you can see. Which is very, very nice to see the marshals working tirelessly to give us the opportunity to go racing as quickly as possible. Thankfully, we get the notification that both drivers are conscious and will be brought to the medical center for the routine checks after such an accident. But it is extremely nice to see that confirmation from race control. The accident involving Piotr Viktor Orchowski, the Pole driving for Harp Racing, and Mia Olert, the SG Motors Swedish driver, both of them being rookies this season in a championship that has grown in numbers massively, going from a maximum entry number of 28 cars in 2025 to basically a minimum of 40 full season entries this year, which was incredible to see. And of course now teams and drivers trying to regroup on the fast lane of the pit lane, trying to understand when we will be going back to green flag racing. It won't be for another 10 minutes at least, given that we will have to wait for the classic 10-minute notification, which could come actually pretty shortly, but we'll let you know as soon as we do. But yeah, you can see the cars being recovered from the recovery trucks and all the work being done to repair the tire barriers to make sure that we go racing as quickly as possible. Of course, that is quite a peculiar part of the racetrack. You're just out of turn number 2. There's a bit of decompression with the back end of the hill. As the drivers then go towards turn number 3, it is almost a blind corner, so it's very difficult to see what's happening in front of you, which is what probably Piotr Orkowski had once he came to turn 2, though he was basically glued to the back. Meanwhile, we have confirmation that the race will be restarted. The repairs are underway, as we can clearly see, and we have an estimated restart behind the safety car in about 15 minutes time. That would be fantastic, of course, given how quick the marshals have been in the past few minutes to clear the racetrack from all the debris, and then of course repairing the tire barriers, which have worked fantastically, I must say, in this occasion. Meanwhile, Jenzer Motorsport looking over in the pits. Of course, Jenzer being one of the best teams in F4 CEZ history. They have been by far the team with the most amount of wins. They have taken all team titles from 2023 onwards, and they have claimed the driver's title from 2023 to 2025. The only year when that didn't happen was 2022. though that was the inaugural season of the championship when it was called the ACCR Formula 4 Trophy. It was only 4 races. One of them, one of those race weekends being here at the Slovakia Ring. Jenzer has basically dominated the past 3 years, winning with the smallest margin of 235 points in the team standings in 2024. This year, however, things are a bit tighter, especially in the driver standings, as their drivers Elia Weiss and Max Karhan are fighting hard with David Walther for Maffi Racing. Of course, we also have Rechenmacher driving for Cram Motorsport, a driver that has just taken his maiden win in the series this weekend in race number 2, when he basically stole victory from David Walther. So Jenzer having a bit of a tougher time this year in the driver standings, though the team, of course, needs no introduction. It was and has been for the past previous years one of the pillars of Swiss motorsport, especially in open wheel competitions, having raced in championships all over Europe and the world itself. Of course, in Formula 4, being the backbone of the Italian Formula 4 Championship since 2014, having won the driver's title in 2016 with Marco Siebert, having dominated F4 CEZ in the past 3 years, and then being one of the successful teams in FIA Formula 3 since the championship's rebrand in 2019, taking 2 wins, one with former Formula 1 driver Yuki Tsunoda, and the other one, the most recent one, in 2023 at Spa-Francorchamps with Teo Borenstein. A team that was in Formula 3 up until 2024 before leaving the championship and being substituted by Dams Lucas Oil. They have worked with a plethora of competitive drivers. Of course, we talked about Yuki Tsunoda before, but he definitely isn't the only one. Naturally, Teo Borenstein was another huge talent, but looking at their history in Italian F4, Marco Siebert, as we said, was a hugely popular driver and one of the best GT drivers for what we saw in previous years. Job van Uitert was another one who came second in 2017. Kushmaini, a current Formula 2 driver, was part of that 2017 Italian F4 lineup. They had very competitive drivers as well in recent years, with Johnny Edgar driving in 2019, and especially here in F4 CEZ, we've had some of our previous champions going on to do great things so far in the world of motorsport. I'm thinking, for example, of Gino Trappa, our reigning champion, who is now racing in Eurocup 3. He has also made his official Formula 3 testing debut a couple of weeks ago. He has definitely been on the rise in previous years. So Jenzer really helping with the growth of natural talents. Meanwhile, we get confirmation that in 10 minutes we will restart behind the safety car. So the operations with the tire barrier are basically complete, and in 10 minutes we will be restarting behind the safety car with 17 minutes and 30 seconds to go. Teo Borenstein will be leading things off. He has already had to deal with a safety car restart, and that was in race number 1. He handled that perfectly, keeping first position, which then he did up until the very end of the race, taking his second win this year. Borenstein was one of the drivers who impressed the most in 2025 in his maiden season in the championship. Failed to finish on the podium, but was improving race by race, as in fact his best result came in the very final round of the year in Brno, with 4th position in race number 2. And then, of course, he was always going to be one of the favorites coming in this year, together with Max Karhan, who missed out on the title last year by just 9 points by the end, despite a phenomenal 13-race streak podiums-wise, though he couldn't take the title away from Gino Trappa, with the Argentine taking over with 6 wins and a very consistent season. Borenstein will have to work very hard to keep David Walther at bay. The Danish driver is also a returning driver. He had raced in the first 5 out of 7 rounds last year. He had taken the win at the Red Bull Ring in race number 2. As the Dane came into this season, he knew that he could have a chance at fighting for the title, but then naturally we have plenty of drivers who are looking to do so. Of course, Teo Borenstein being one of them, though he didn't have the best of starts to his season. I mean, he was very quick at the Red Bull Ring in round number 1, winning the opening race of the year, though in race number 4 he had to miss out on points and therefore lose vital ground in the championship, currently trailing by 31 points from Elia Weiss, as the German is our de facto championship leader, with 9 points over David Walther and 14 over Max Karhan. Meanwhile, we are in the pit lane, looking at the cars that are getting ready to restart. Currently alongside car number 12, Orbien Cesari, the Polish driver for Maffi Racing. Poland, of course, having plenty of drivers this season. Piotr Orkowski being the new entry this weekend, having finished 5th in race number 1, then unfortunately involved in that crash that we saw earlier. There was, in the meantime, Albert Pijarik, the Yannick Motorsport red and white car, then going up a place until we reach František Nemec, the other Czech on the grid. He is currently in 17th position. In front of him, car number 427, Stefan Traneski, the sole representative of North Macedonia. He's just outside the top 15, which of course are the points-paying positions. Leo Nilsson being the final driver who would be eligible to score points today, as he is in 15th place with car number 96. Here he is, racing with DriveX, a team that has, of course, a big history in recent years. This is their sole entry in the championship. Then reaching Alexia Danielson. She was very unfortunate to retire from race number 2 after contact in the opening stages with Andreas Lobue. But she is back now on the grid. We were talking about DriveX earlier, of course, a team that is very experienced with F4 cars and machinery. They took the team's title in 2019 in Spanish Formula 4 when a certain current F1 driver named Franco Colapinto won the title back then. They have worked with a plethora of fantastic drivers, of course Franco being one of them, but they had plenty of future graduates. Current Formula 3 title hopeful Bruno Del Pino raced with them in 2021 in Spanish F4. In recent years as well, they have evolved into a big organization that has also joined other championships such as Euro Cup 3. Meanwhile, we have the 5-minute warning before the restart, which will be behind the safety car, which means that we are getting ready to get out there once more. Here we see Hella Hakkinen, of course one of the most awaited names on the starting grid. She is, as you can see, a McLaren Junior, of course daughter of the 2-time world champion Mika Hakkinen. She's one of the youngest drivers on the starting grid, is yet to turn 16. She will do so on the 30th of November. And she has already looked the part this year in her debut in single-seaters. She has taken points in every single race she's participated in, and just yesterday in race number 2 she scored her best result with 7th position. Today she has put on a couple of great moves and is up into 10th place, just in front of Alexander Lousa, the Brazilian, who is also in the points playing positions. Meanwhile, we've moved up to Alexander Bogunovic, car number 86, with the Slovenian racing for ABA Racing, currently in 8th spot. Bogunovic himself has flirted with the podium positions this year plenty of times, finishing on 4 different occasions in the top 6, the most recent one yesterday in race number 2. Also a reminder, while we see the plenty of fans that have come to watch the on-track action here at the Slovakia Ring, as I was saying, a reminder that when the safety car will hit the track, the timer will start once more. So we will be effectively racing as soon as we leave the pit lane. Of course, not under green flag conditions, but we will be having 17 more minutes to enjoy. As in 30 seconds or so, the safety car will pull out of the pits and we will be getting ready to restart. We can now see the 1-minute board. With Teo Borenstein getting ready to engage the clutch, put first gear in and drive off. As the leading car. Here we go. We are back under safety car conditions. The engines are back on and we are out of the pits. So we are under safety car conditions. The timer has started once more and we have around the 17 minutes left in race number 3 for F4 CEZ. This is, of course, the third round of the championship, a series that has already been to Austria for the first couple of rounds. We went to the Red Bull Ring in April and then visited the Salzburgring last week for round number 2. We have basically 1.5 races left this weekend. As you take a look at the vastly different liveries on the front wings of our cars. You can see the McLaren one from Elia Weiss sticking out the most in between the different Jenzer Motorsport base liveries in that shot. But as I was saying, after this weekend in Orechenmacher, we will be moving over to Most in August for round number 4 to officially start the second half of the season, before staying in the Czech Republic to go to Brno from the 12th to the 13th of September for round number 5. And then last but definitely not least, the final round of the 2026 FIA F4 CEZ Championship. We'll see the series head over to Hungary, as the Hungaroring in Budapest will host the season finale from the 24th to the 25th of October. So the safety car heads the pack for yet another lap. We are inside the last 15 minutes of the race. Drivers are trying to warm up their tires to try and, of course, get the tires in the right temperature window. Borenstein will have to do this very quickly, as of course he is the leading car and all eyes will be on him to handle the safety car restart. Borenstein, as we said before, has already had to handle this in race number 1 and did so brilliantly, passing the test with flying colors. And as you can see now, the teams and drivers are getting ready to restart their race. The safety car is still out on track as we move into what will be the second half of this race. As you can see, all the drivers are waiting patiently behind the safety car. As we can see now, the confirmation that the safety car will be in at the end of this lap. And after about 30 minutes, we will be back under green flag conditions for what is the third race of FIA F4 CEZ this weekend at the Slovakia Ring. The green flag has been waved by the stewards and now it's all in Teo Borenstein's hands to handle the restart. He went for it in the middle of turn number 13, which we are approaching right about now. Will he do the same, or will he wait a little bit longer to surprise David Walther, who's already almost sticking his nose up the inside into the final 2 corners of the racetrack. And here we go, as Borenstein goes quite late, but Walther has stuck with him brilliantly, and therefore we could already watch a fight towards turn number 1 and a change of lead here in F4 CEZ as Walther goes to the outside. Meanwhile, there's also Dean Pedersen on the inside of championship leader Elia Weiss. The 4 of them almost go 4 wide into the opening corner, but it is David Walther with a perfect restart to take first position. He goes a bit wide, however, on the outside of turn 1, and therefore this could enable Teo Borenstein to retake the lead of the race coming towards turn number 2. And yes, he does. He is back into the lead. Dean Pedersen, meanwhile, up into 3rd, overtaking Elia Weiss, the championship leader, who is maybe a tad bit more conservative. Of course, that white smoke being the filler put on by the marshals on the racetrack. And around the outside goes Dean Pedersen on Daniel Walther. What an amazing overtake from the American, as he is now moved up into 2nd position, looking for what would be his first podium in his 4th appearance in the championship. Best ever result of 4th place in race number 2. He was close to a podium yesterday, though he was later penalized because of a jump start. He therefore dropped to 11th in the final race result, but he is now on for a maiden podium as he has moved to 2nd position and now quite close to Teo Borenstein as well. But David Walther isn't done. He goes to the outside of turn number 10, which will turn into the inside line for turn number 11. But Dean Pedersen says no, shuts the door on him, and keeps 2nd position for now. Borenstein trying to wave goodbye to his rivals, weaving on the straight to try and break the slipstream, but not working for him, unfortunately. Meanwhile, a fight for 8th position with Poulsen and Bogunovic, the latter keeping 8th place for now, but Poulsen is very quick, and so is Hella Hakkinen behind the 2 of them, as she wants to make it a 3-way fight in towards turn number 1, with Bogunovic having to defend 8th position from Poulsen. The 2 of them now go almost side by side towards turn number 2, with Ella Hakkinen trying to make an impression as well. And up the inside goes the McLaren Junior as she moves up into 9th with a very clever and opportunistic move, which is exactly what you need to do in Formula 4 racing. Let's see now if she is able to defend on the inside, though the outside line is quite quick. In the meantime, David Walther has overtaken Dean Pedersen back and is now up into 2nd once more. Therefore, another change of positions in the podium fight. Meanwhile, Bogunovic has kept 8th position and Poulsen has retaken 9th from Hella Hakkinen. Here they are, with the McLaren Junior now behind the white and black entry number 77 of Victor Poulsen. So far so good for Teo Borenstein after a very slight scare in the restart when David Walther went around the outside of turn number 1 to take the lead briefly. Borenstein was good and alert to try and retake it, and managing to do so brilliantly. Meanwhile, fights still go on for 9th place as Hakkinen is past Poulsen once more. Well, there was maybe contact through turn number 13 as well. Yes, and that is car number 12. Bien Cesari spun out and into the gravel, and I think that is the end of his race as he looks to have beached the car in the gravel trap, and this could actually be cause of another safety car intervention should the stewards deem that dangerous. So far the green flag is still being waved. We only have 7 minutes left, therefore a safety car now could potentially put an end to this race prematurely. I'm sure Teo Borenstein wouldn't be completely against that, but in the meantime, we keep on going as Borenstein is almost under attack from David Walther, who has found the pace he had before the safety car and the red flag. Meanwhile, Elia Weiss, the championship leader, trying to make a move on Dean Pedersen for the final podium place. Weiss has always stood on the podium in every single race he's entered, and up the inside with a lockup goes Elia Weiss, but Dean Pedersen wants none of it and retakes third position, and that of course isn't ideal for Elia Weiss, as that lockup will probably hurt him in the next few minutes. Meanwhile, Alexander Loza in a fight for what is 11th position with Andrea Sobue, though the latter has overtaken him. We have yellow flags, of course, and now the confirmation of the safety car coming out on track once more to let the stewards recover Bien Cesari's car. And I'm afraid that given the time we have left, this could be all she wrote for race number 3. Unless we somehow can do 2 laps behind the safety car in just over 5 minutes, which I don't think will happen. Meanwhile, let's see a replay. Yeah, unfortunately, it's very hard to understand what happened. We just saw Bien Cesari spin out and into the gravel. I think this could be it for this race. This will be Teo Borenstein's second consecutive win in the races he's entered. He had won in the opening race of the year, and he would become the sole driver, together with Elia Weiss, the championship leader, to have won at least 3 races this season. The only driver to win in 2 different countries, as he won in Austria at the Red Bull Ring in race number 1 of the season, and then now twice at the Slovakia Ring, of course, should the results stay as they are right about now. Meanwhile, all good with car number 12. As you can see, Bien Cesari is out of the car on his own 2 feet, which is always very nice to see. Unfortunately, though, his race has ended prematurely. He was fighting for a spot in the points-paying positions. Not an easy race for Poland and all their fans, which I'm sure are watching from home. Piotr Rakowski retired earlier after contact, which then brought out the red flag. And now Bien Cesari was looking to score his first points of the season, but unfortunately for him, that didn't happen. So the safety car has been deployed, and we only have 3.5 minutes left. If we get the chance to race, it will be on the very next lap, but should the safety car stay out for one more lap, I don't think we will have the time to restart. The recovery track has taken the Maffi Racing entry number 12, but we are already into the final sector, and I don't think the safety car has turned its lights off. It hasn't. Therefore, we will be very tight on time, and I'm pretty sure that it will be in Teo Borenstein's hands, but I think this could be it for the race. Of course, we will wait for official confirmation of that, but I am pretty confident that the clock will strike 0 before we get to the end of this one. The safety car is still out. Of course, drivers are always trying to put the tires in the right temperature window, desperately trying to be ready should the race restart. In the meantime, let's have a look at the standings. Teo Borenstein, of course, leads in front of David Walther and Dean Pedersen, who has kept 3rd position from championship leader Elia Weiss, who is now in 4th. 5th place is Max Karhan, another one of the title hopefuls, just in front of Lithuania's Markas Silkunas. Georgi Zhazov is in 7th with Alexander Bogunovic in 8th. Ella Hakkinen in 9th position, just ahead of Viktor Poulsen. And then Andreas Lobo in 11th, Alexander Loza in 12th, Miroslav Kepak in 13th, Leo Nielsen in 14th, and in the final points paying position, Alexia Danielsen. Cars are still on track behind the safety car, as we only have a minute or so left. And I'm pretty confident that the safety car will head in at the end of this lap, though it remains to be seen whether or not we will have more laps to enjoy in race number 3. Definitely an anticlimactic start to the day, but that was always a possibility. The marshals did a fantastic job to let us go back to green flag racing in under 30 minutes from the crash that we saw earlier today. And as the safety car now goes towards turn number 10, we will be seeing whether or not it turns the lights off, which would mean that we get to see a restart of some sorts. Yes, we do. Teo Borenstein will then lead the field, but with only 12 seconds left, I think we won't have a lot of action left for this race. Still, Borenstein wants to take all precautions into this restart, as we now move towards the final 2 corners of the racetrack, with Teo Borenstein now moving to take this race restart and take the final couple of corners. And as he gets ready to cross the start finish line, he's going to take the checkered flag to win race number 3. A back-to-back victories for Teo Borenstein as he moves closer to the championship fight thanks to this double success. There's also a crash towards turn number 1, and that is car number 11 of Albert Pijarik, who has broken both suspensions on the left-hand side of his car. Contact right after the finish line. That was very strange from the two of them. We will have to see a replay of that, but that doesn't change the final result. Of course, the TV crew being fantastic as always. Yeah, there's contact in the back of the field. It was very tough to see with who, but yeah, Albert Pijarik and Yannick Motorsport will have to work very hard behind closed doors to make that car available for race number 4, the grand final, which will take place later today. The plan is to see the cars back on track at 2:10 p.m. local time for the final race of this weekend. But that is yet another Jenzer Motorsport victory. Once more, Teo Borenstein this weekend was close to perfect as he takes home the 3rd win of the season, 2nd in a row after winning race number 1. And he does so in front of David Walther, who keeps his podium streak open. He is the only driver to finish every single race he's entered this year on the podium. He will also gain 7 crucial points on Elia Weiss. The gap will likely just be 2 points ahead of the final race of the weekend, which is extremely interesting and exciting as we build the anticipation for the final race of this 3rd round of the FIA F4 CEZ. Now cars are heading towards the pits, of course, to enter Parc Fermé. That's not the case for car number 11, of course, as Albert Pijarik will have to be rescued by the recovery trucks. But we're getting ready to see the final standings of this race. Teo Borenstein has taken a fantastic victory, with David Walther in second position and Dean Pedersen in third. A maiden podium for the American rookie. Meanwhile, here is the rescue car to take the Yannick Motorsport entry of Albert Pijarik, the Czech driver, who is about to jump out of the car. And he will unfortunately have to walk back to the pits instead of driving his car to it. Such a shame for him, who finished in 18th position and out of the points. But here is the final standings. Teo Borenstein takes the win ahead of David Walther and Dean Pedersen, with Elia Weiss, the championship leader, in 4th and Max Karhan in 5th. Markas Shilkunas in 6th position ahead of Georgi Zhazov. Alexander Bogunovic in 8th. Ela Hakkinen, the McLaren Junior, finishes in 9th, and Victor Paulsen rounds out the top 10. We, of course, have 5 more drivers who have finished in the points-paying position, given that the top 15 score points since this year. There are Andreas Lobue, Alexander Loza, Miroslav Kepak, Leo Nilsson, and Alexia Danielsson, with the 2 Swedish drivers taking the final 2 points-paying positions. But that is it for the third race of the 2026 FIA-CEZ Formula 4 Championship in round number 3. See you guys at 2:05 p.m. local time this afternoon for the grand final, race number 4 here from the Slovakia Ring.